I've had a few folks ask about what's included in our Vortex intakes. So this is a round intake. I'll eventually do another video on the oval intake as well. This one's for the 1300. Everything is pre-packaged in here, and I'm going to take this apart here in just a moment to kind of show you everything that comes in this. But you'll get a pack that has the intake, all the machine parts, and then your filter will come in a separate bag. And let's go over all the stuff that's in, because you can see all the hardware is in this baggie in here. Let me go over all that stuff, and then once we go through everything, I'll go show you how to install it. Alright, so when you take the blister pack apart that has all of the hardware, obviously you have your top cover. A lot of these are going to have a white film on them. This is the clear window that goes onto the intake. You'll basically just tuck that down inside of the top cover. This is the back mounting plate. The back mounting plate has an integrated hose barb for your crankcase breather. There's no need for an additional filter. It'll have 3 spacers, and we'll show you during the installation part, how these spacers go in, but basically they go between the top and bottom plate. You're going to have 3 1/4-20 socket caps. You're going to have a 1/4-20 serrated flange bolt here. That is to mount the support bracket. And then you're going to have 3 M5 bolts and lock washers that will be used in these holes here when you mount the intake to the carburetor. You're also going to receive a little one-time use of blue thread locker. This will be used on these bolts here, as well as I also put a dab on this, even though this is supposed to be a locking flange bolt. I would suggest still putting a little bit of Loctite on that when you install that on the back of this. So from here, and also obviously your filter. So from here, we'll go through the installation of this kit and then give you a rundown on how it looks. So before we get to the install, there is something I want to cover, and that's really around tuning. On the 1300, you are going to have a tune with this intake. So here I have one of the, this is one of the Barron's jet kits. The way that I have my tune installed, I'm using the adjustable needle out of the kit. I'm actually all the way down here. Let's see here if I can get it to focus. On that second to last clip. So you're going to want to use the little E-clip that's down here underneath this tape. Second to last E-clip, and then I also added one of the washers that comes in the carb shim kit. If you buy the Barron's jet kits from us, you get the needle shims in the kit. So we take these apart. This will be folded up and be down in here. But I use one of these very small shims, and what that does is it actually is a half of one of those grooves. So it's basically all the way down plus another half. I'm also using a number 60. This comes with a number 58. I'm using a number 60 Pilot. That got rid of some of that low end. It's like 5 to 10, 15% throttle. If you're rolling on the throttle, the cough you would get every once in a while. Going to 60 Pilot, fix that. The kit also comes with a carb adjustment tool. You can see here it has a little D. The little D stamp in it, so you can adjust the air fuel ratio. On mine, I'm currently running about a 2.5 turns out. And then I'm also running the 210, which I think is this jet here. This is a brand new one that I just opened back up. I think this is it here. Yeah, you probably can't read that. It will not focus. Anyway, there's a little 210 stamped on the end of this, so I'm using a 210 main. Second to last clip on the needle. I'm also running their spring, which if you notice, like Factory Pro and stuff didn't come with an extra spring. I did notice a difference when I did switch to this spring though with this kit. So I am running the spring that comes in the Barron's kit. I'm running a number 60 Pilot, which is available on our website. And then I'm running, like I said, the second to last clip from the bottom and then another shim. So let's go do the install, and I'll show you how the intake gets installed on the bike. Alright, so as you can see here, I've removed everything, whether you're using an aftermarket intake already, or if you have the stock air box, you're going to have to pull the tank, pull the stock air box completely off, and then you're going to need to retain, there's a bolt that you need to retain, which goes to this stock bracket down here, or the stock mounting location down here, this 10 mil, or this bolt right here, you're going to want to hang on to this because you'll need this for the install. All the rest of the bolts that you need are included in the kit. That bolt down there, you're going to need a 10 millimeter to remove this, and you're also going to need it to obviously put it back on. You're going to need a 3/8 inch or a 3/8 wrench. That's to tighten the mount bracket bolt on the back. You're going to need a 4 millimeter hex. That is to tighten down these M5 bolts that come with your kit. And you're also going to need a 3/16 inch hex. This is going to be to tighten down the 3 bolts on the outside of the intake. All right, so the first thing I do is I usually slide the filter down inside of this slot. It is machined pretty tight so that we get a good seal. And then the second thing you're going to do is you're going to take this quarter 20 bolt that's here. If you hold the intake out kind of perpendicular, where these holes are perpendicular to the ground, the way this bracket is set up so that it is supposed to be sort of straight up and down, and I just finger tighten that bracket so I can still have a little bit of movement. And then I turn this around, tuck all of your hoses back, slide this up on the intake, line everything up, and make sure that your bracket down here on the bottom is lined up with the hole. And then what you're going to want to do is just reach your finger up there, tighten it up a little bit, turn it over, and then tighten this bolt with a wrench. This is one of the bolts I would suggest using a little bit of that Loctite with, just to put a little bit of extra security on this bolt here to make sure that everything stays nice and tight. So once you pull this back off, I usually just hold this bracket in place where it was at, and you're going to want to snug that up. All right, so the next step in the process, now that you have this quarter 20 bolt tightened and your mount bracket tightened, is you're going to want to install your crankcase breather on, you can see it, this little barb right here. So the way that I do that is you're going to want to pull this hose, like I said, over here to the left of the intake, and then line that up and pop the hose onto the intake. And then line the intake up to the carburetor, and then install these 3 bolts. Now, when you install these bolts, you're going to want to make sure there's little lock washers that were included. So you can see here, this little lock washer needs to go on each one of these bolts when you install these. So now we just got to line this up, and we'll start installing these M5 bolts. There's no need for Loctite on these. That's what the lock washers are for. So just as a reminder, when you're installing these bolts with those lock washers, you don't need to cinch them down like really He-Man these dudes on here. It's, you just got to snug them up so it's enough to hold the lock washer to keep the bolt from backing out, and you don't want to ruin your threads back here. So make sure those are tight, but just snug is good enough. So the next part of the install is going to be putting the support bracket bolt in. So this is the original bolt that was here. You're going to want to slide this through and install it underneath the intake. You're also going to want to make sure there's a little thing down here on the bottom. Let me move you a little bit here. So this has a place for your idle adjustment to slide into. You're going to want to slide that into that slot and then tighten this down. So for the next part of the install, you're going to take that sheet, and like I said, if there's a piece of plastic on this, you're going to want to remove it. You're going to slide that down inside of the back of this, and you're going to take this cover, and then what I usually do is I take 1 bolt and 1 spacer, and I usually start, I'm right-handed, so I usually start over here on the right. I slide the bolt through the top of the cover. I slide the spacer over that, and then I line this up, and I just manually kind of start this with my hand, with my fingers. Then you're going to take your 3/16 hex and go around, again, snug them up. And the way that these will fit is once they're snugged, you'll snug these up, it will sit against the spacer. So you'll tighten them until they are snug. Now, my suggestion would be also, as you're installing these bolts, make sure you're using the provided Loctite. And that's it. So at this point, like I said, you're going to want to make sure the jet kit was installed prior to this. But from this point, you have your idle adjustment down here at the bottom. The intake is installed and you're ready to ride.